Hello, everyone. So 2024 first. Let's begin with a new product. Winston, Derek, do you want to, let's discuss about the Node Cloud, right? It's the new product offering from the Restaking Cloud, right?
Yeah.
So let me share the screen. So it's like, yeah, okay, cool. So, can you see it? Cool.
Yep.
So we're gonna talk a bunch of things about a specific feature that we're introducing that will allow node runners and Ethereum validators to run the node for other networks with the protection of slashable, ETH from the K2. So it's pretty straightforward, nothing very fancy, but it gets like super, super interesting because you're going to talk about many combinations and permutations. How are you going to expand this kind of Ethereum validator security for, as a node running infrastructure for all kind of operations? So it's going to be like very interesting. So let's get started. Just to give you some idea about the Node Cloud. Node Cloud is a standalone product on a Restaking Cloud, in conjunction with the K2. But there's a lot of overlapping, as usually, like it's a network of products, right? We have K2 already in testnet. People are just having fun with it. Like I think about $600 million worth of ETH is already there as a native delegation. That's super, super awesome because these are directly delegated from the consensus layer by the Ethereum validators. And, it's in Goerli, so, when then there's an LSD route, the people putting LSD there, but when it comes to the mainnet, this will bring in a very expanded market, readily available. And, but now we just bring in this kind of other side of the market, like Ethereum validator sticks are there. How about that machine infrastructure to be available for others, right? And the PNO, the node operation. So what is a node cloud? Is a permissionless marketplace for ETH protected node operations. Put it simply, that one's right. Any node operator, any operations is protected by ETH. So that's a very specific guarantee that you're giving. So what are the actors there is pretty interesting because we have ETH protection, so you need to have delegations. Well, that's what the K2 actually brought into the scene, is like you can have like programmable delegation, programmable slashing. Now we're allowing liquid delegations, right? Which means it's liquid. You delegate, you can have a liquid delegation to earn liquid yield. That's super interesting, right? So which means you can terminate it anytime. You don't really give any persons that your money, but they can actually use your money, and then they can do a work on with that one to be secured. And there's a classic, the proof of stake mechanism underlying liquid proof of stake was there, and there's a lot of proof of stake actually work like that way. The users actually back-end signaling node operations, and node operators actually getting more and more, active role in operations like that. So that's super interesting. Liquid delegations, existing E3 stakers will be able to earn more rewards by delegating to any kind of node operators they would love to. Now, anyone who want to access these node operations is called K networks, right? So the K networks are any dApps or any mainstream networks or anyone who want to have a node running operation that is being protected. Register there, good to go, and you can get this kind of a really awesome guys who are, who knows nitty-gritty details of how to do this in a decentralized fashion, very value aligned. They're ready to go. You don't really have to go and negotiate with 100 parties. You have this kind of a curated set of node operators, parties that is from all around the world, readily available to you. And you can just focus on your business needs. You serve your user better, and we take off the rest. And the node operators could be from anywhere. So those are called the PNO. They get really interesting market that, coming from L1, L2 blockchain kind of services, or oracles, or bridge, or decentralized operations, any existing centralized services who want to decentralize their part, teeny bit, or 5%, 10%, very specific actions, they can subscribe to that. But what is good for this is like, all the packages were actually being vetted. So they're not really getting into like an unknown territory, but they can actually get a very vast market access. We're gonna walk you through this, like the benefits of it, because one of the key strengths of the crypto is bootstrapping a decentralized infrastructure, and we have seen this more and more. But there's an investment cost at the beginning that you enter into the market. But what we want to do here is, like, you're already an Ethereum validator. We want to give you more and more cash flows. That makes sense?
Yeah, can I actually ask a question here, Matt?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is great for people who need to run additional services on a node, but is that required of people? The people who need to access Restaking Cloud and need to access Restake ETH, do they have to set up something with a preferred node operator to even use the platform?
What do you mean? Can you just can you repeat that one? I was just can you
Yeah,
repeat that once again? Yeah, sorry.
yeah. So if a middleware or some network wants to come in and use Restaking Cloud, is it required that they also, enlist some
No.
preferred node operators? Okay.
No, no. So if like, we already have like a lot of people are actually like been testing on the Restaking Cloud. A lot of people don't really need a node operations, right? They want Restake security for their, to offer much more resilience, and then decentralized, reporting, self-reporting, and also protecting their operations, the operational integrity that we call, right? If the oracles goes about 5%, 2%, then you can actually do reporters. So that's a network level coverage, the fault tolerance and things like that. You can expand your TVL. You can in a trustless manner, anyone can verify and audit how your network is running, and you have that record. That's a basic structure of a distributor decentralized ledger operation. So K2 gives you this kind of a distributor, decentralized trustless ledger of your operations. How's your operation health is there? That's massive, because you don't really have to put up any kind of money to do that. You just like, click a button, pay, you can get 1,000 ETH, and you pay like only like 4% or 3%, and you only pay for what you use for, and you get a fixed cost. That's great. But this is like some people, I also want somebody to run a software, because we are actually having a node operation. So this is like, so more of a decentralized physical infrastructures, or, blockchains, or anything like that. Anyone who wants a decentralized infrastructure, like as a machine infrastructure, that's a node operations. And where do I go? Do I go to AWS? Do I go to somewhere like, and then I need to find out how these packages should be and tailor it? No. You just go to a very, professional node operators who are providing, 15, $16 billion settlement on a daily basis. That's the guy that you want to hire. And where do I find this guy, and who are they, and how do you get that? We making these things, the coordination part is much more easier. Curating them, who are securing the ETH, that comes with signaling with the ETH delegators. So ETH Restake a signal. These node operators really great, but the liquid delegation, they also protect their operations they're putting up. In return, they share the rewards that is being getting from the account. We get into that. That makes sense. The node operations are very different sector from segment from what is the fault tolerance and what is the network coverage.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. So it definitely starting to really see that picture between preferred node operators and the K2 pool. It's different products within the same network. Okay, thank you.
Yes, yeah. And of course, we have this kind of slashing gadget and the reporters and the weakness reporter. And that's one of the key components for the Restaking Cloud to operate at scale. I would say that you can
Without
have
oracles.
Yes, without oracles. So as usual, none of our protocols use any kind of oracles or any kind of anything external. It's fully on smart contracts, but off-chain can actually plug in. We have an MEV Plus module, so these things actually get more and more fluid interaction. You don't really have to worry about integration. It won't take more than 30 minutes in any way, right? So we make that kind of a very nice experience. It's built for developers. It's built for integrations. It's built for usability. Right.
So is this how crypto is going to scale, like behind the scenes? So there's many different like problems to solve within crypto, right? Obviously, UX is one problem, and the other problem is, kind of infrastructure, right? So that's the behind the scenes, the stuff that people don't see, right? And if we want to scale the industry in a decentralized way, then you've got to solve some coordination problems, and that's what you said. Restaking Cloud is helping.
Yeah. So it's just like, movers and followers, or, classically say movers and shakers, but just like, leaders and followers in another way. So you actually want to have this kind of a tribal leaders or like a segment leaders, where they've seen something and the rest of the guys want to do it. But what do you want? What do you have is like at the crypto, you have this kind of very convoluted narrative of like, oh, we got the Bitcoin, we got the ETH. Where can I go and participate within this, ecosystem? And you jump into centralized exchanges. And you lose money, right? And over and over and over that you get this kind of a coordination element is the biggest vulnerable, the Achilles heel that you have this kind of decentralized network, right? Mongots, FTX, and you name it, it's going to come over and over. And when we have this kind of proof of stake world, the decentralized proof of stake world, now you have this kind of a coordination element getting more and more palpable. I would say it's like more concerned with the who's running my machines. If you're running a machine, is that a ZK validator? Are those really ZK? Or do they know my data? How do you give this information? Who is running what? And is that a malicious actor? Or if I'm getting that guy into it, can I kick him out? Can I have this kind of a system of record of the operations, and someone can actually vouch for it? Or do I go? What is the cost base to have that in one place, right? So anyone who want to do a decentralized operation, the massive cost base is there, right? And they need to bootstrap with the native tokens and things like that. So we just be abstracting away that requirement. The barrier of entry should be very low for anybody want to have this kind of a universal level access. In a quote unquote, I'm using air quotes here, when the internet came, it was a permissionless leverage to informations, right? And this is like 20 years ago. And that's we have seen this Web 1, Web 2. So many things has been changed. How you send greeting cards, how you send post letters, how you watch the TV, the cable networks has been transformed into streaming networks. The DVDs has been paid way for the things that's been non-existent. But what is the blockchain has brought into is a permissions leverage, the smart contracts permission leverage to do this kind of re-executable the files. That's a huge invention, right? And with the advent of Bitcoin actually brought this kind of permissions leverage of a financial. So there's a lot of innovations comes in from time to time. One is like the Bitcoin and smart contracts, and the DeFi comes to it. DeFi is like huge invention, right? It's because innovation is like permissions leverage to do all kind of financial applications. Now the restaking brings that kind of a trust layer, the permissions leverage to launch your decentralized operations on the go. You don't really have to worry about it once you deploy it and it's there, and you can just focus on other stuff. And there's no jurisdictional limitations. You can actually, you can balance it for more your geographical needs. We get into that. But this is like a huge opening for how you want to interact with the world. And we're talking about a world with a 8 billion population with more 60% or 70% have them in a smartphone. So you want to make sure those people can access this kind of innovation that's like very exponential, and it's going to get better and better. I'm gonna slow down that one, just focus on what we're talking here. So let's talk about the P&L, right? So the P&L reporter will actually run a lightweight software. Anyone can run it in your mobile. Hopefully we will release that the mobile, the module sooner or later, so you can actually be a reporter from your mobile phone itself. Run it and you just sync it with everything. It's like it's a very classic way of saying that you're running a concurrent action. There's a concurrent network doing independent actions, right? So that's what the reporters does. You have a similar things in data DA layers and things like that. They all do this kind of getting this kind of concurrent operations, but independent actions, like small teeny tiny bit of data will be kept. But here it is like this same setup from the distributed computing. Any reporters can actually do a report at a given point of time, 100 reports or 1,000 reports, but everybody's looking after for that to sync one network. So once you're part of this, you don't really have to spin up your own reporter network. So all the reporters doesn't really have to worry about how many K networks. It's all been taken care. You run a small, teeny tiny little software, and they're just like ping, 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 ping microservice, and it just gets you ETH. That's nice, right? Run a software on ETH.
Nice. Who doesn't like ETH?
Nobody. Everybody likes ETH. All right, cool. So before we getting into the nitty-gritty details, a small recap. What is K2, right? We talked about Node Cloud, but let's refresh your minds. What is K2? K2 is an on-demand restaking pool with a quantifiable trust. and it comes with a programmable slashing for any kind of decentralized operations. It is quantified. Every single bit of its operations are auditable and verifiable. There's nothing at stake. There's no double stake. So this is like a modular staking pool designed for redistributing the ETH security to a number of operations at n number of layers. So we have slashing security now, but remember the node cloud is a separate protocol. So, but then we're going to get into the details, the payouts and things like that. It's super fascinating because K2 has multiple partitions, like we call partitions, like multiple markets. The first is a slashing. Now the payouts and other kind of things are going to come in SVP applications. But at the core, it has an SVP, which is a stake borrow position, how much ETH that has been given to you at a given point of time at the fixed cost. And then who is actually given to you? That's the K2 restakers. That's the ETH validators and LST, tokens. So everything is ETH now. That's K2. K2 is the core engine for how do you get this kind of ETH restake security on different layers in a really modular programmable way. So you don't really have to worry about it, go around and spending like 10,000 and token launch and things like that just to get a restaking. Come to the protocol, do whatever you want to do. You don't really have to bug about anything else. It's launching, guys. Just do it. Right? Cool. So we're there. Actually, it's been better now. It's about, more ETH has been staked. It's a little bit, I think 72 billion is a number that's taken before. It's about close to about 100 billion, but this is ready right now, right? If you want to do it, so as we said, native delegation as we brought like 600 million is existing validator. So any validator from the genesis of Ethereum proof of stake is allowed to upgrade for their restaking functionality. All it takes 10 minutes. And the module is there, people are doing it. Nothing stops you. No one can prohibit you to opting. It's a permissionless system. So all the ETH stakers, you're welcome.
Other stakers, right? Any protocol? Is there any restriction on protocols?
Anyone. Okay. So it's purely programmable. If you're running a DVT cluster, if you're a liquid staking protocol, you want to make that decision at the DAO, how the yields should be split. That's good. Solo stakers, you're the best. You are welcome from the day one. You can just do it. Don't worry about it. Now with the P&O, you can offer your service for other people too. So that's like additional cash flows. Everything what we do, always solo staker first, right? If you can serve the solo staker, you can serve everyone else down the stream, right? So that's how we operate it, right? So, and plus the restaking. So any validators, let it be your Lido pool validator, you're an EigenLayer native stakers, or you're like a Rocket pool guys, and you're the solo staker, you're any new LRT, LSTs, welcome, right? So this is like a very positive market growth, right? Okay, so before getting to the structure poster of the P&O WTF, right? What is a P&O? Preferred node operators, that's the jargon. That's the only thing that we're going to use it. Preferred node operators is like preferences for ETH. So if you're an ETH validator, that's your preference, right? Preferred node operators, anyone who want to have an ETH protected validators, and for the node operations, these are the guys who want to hire it, and it will be readily available from the P&O node cloud, and they have slashable security from ETH delegation. So if they don't do anything that you from a predefined parameters that when you hire them, XYZ, if you don't live up to your promise, I'm going to slash you. The coverage is provided by the K2. So that additional ETH coverage. So if you're a validator, if you're a P&O, you get an ETH coverage. Very naive way to think about it. You have a travel insurance when you're going on a flight. If your baggage has been lost, get someone who's paying, right? It's a very, very, very naive analogy, but it's like, similarly, the node operations is being guaranteed and protected by ETH. So you can have absolute peace of mind. If you're doing any kind of decentralized operation, go for the P&Os because they're the best of the best. And also, if they don't live up to their expected operations, they get kicked out, but they also get you will get ETH for the amount of time and the pain that you took it. So it's a really value-aligned network. All right, so cool. Do you want to, Vincent? Do you want to go on it? Share it. Talk about it.
Yeah. Let's go into the more nitty-gritty details for sure. So obviously you've touched upon the preferred node operators, but let's go into that more thoroughly. So Node Cloud just says, right, you need to have some kind of proof that you are already doing node operations on Ethereum. So that's one active Ethereum validator. How do you represent that on chain? Well, that's the native delegation feature that Matt was talking about. So that takes care of that. But you just need to be running one active validator. If you're not running one, you're not eligible for P&O in the first instance, right? So there is full control over. Let me just right. Let me share that screen. That seems to have gone off. Okay. Right. Let's share
Cool.
that. No problem. Right. Okay.
All right. Cool.
You see that? Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Right. Yeah. So that's where we were. So the one Ethereum validator, we tick that off. Now, as a P&O, you have full agency over being able to decide what services, what restaking applications, what restaking networks, etc., that inside of the restaking cloud that you're going to run services for. So that's fully there, unless the network is.
Can I ask a question there? So this is a really interesting point. So let's put something into perspective, right? So tell me a node runner name. You talk to all of these guys all the day, so we just want to get a name.
Yeah, like Infinite Stones, Stakely, Staken.
Yeah, Stakely, Infinite Stones, and all these guys are like cool guys, right? So if they really like them and they have this kind of profile, and just go back, they can make the informed decision. Who do they want to opt in for? Which network? So the networks are already available. Like they signal. It's like a job board and say that, tick tick tick. I want to start the node operations for A, B, C networks. And these are the networks, some profile of that networks, what it does. Things will be, I'm assuming this information will be available on a website or a Notion or somewhere, and they will just make that informed decision. And they also decide like what kind of operations, they know what they need to do because they are the one who's running the machine. They're good at this one. They're doing for long term. They're making this kind of informed decision. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's not too, you can, as a node operator, you're very familiar with the, opting into certain relays for PBS, so you have the GitHub, you go to the GitHub repos and you'll see all the available options there. And it's very easy to do something like that, where services can kind of like, place themselves on there.
It's kind of like a democracy. You're basically giving a liquid delegation to the leader that you trust as a node operator that you trust, and they're running that operations for you, right? And the casting order.
Yeah, absolutely. Not too different from who you're going to vote for, right? In an election, right? You kind of like have the best feeling, and you can change that vote later. You have the option to switch, right? So, but how the actual means by which you do that will be via MEV Plus. So MEV Plus will be the software already on the all the professional node operators. They're all going to have MEV already configured on their machine, and they can just add the Node Cloud module onto the machine, and simply via a mobile application, or it could be whatever. You just say, you just tick. Like, DAppNode's got this nice UI. You just tick, 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 and then you're part of those networks, right? And you can automatically download the software and run it for those networks in line with their rules. Yeah.
So, but if I'm opting into one of these node operators, like, we're getting into the delegations in a moment, but just like the node operators also can do this kind of in a reverse order, the visibility of what are the operations. It's not going to happen like in every day by day basis. It can, like, they will opt into once in a month, like the new networks that we are onboarding this month.
It's not going to be. I think it is comparable to how often a node operator might configure their MEV relay, like very infrequently. Most of the time you're just opting in, but you're not doing it very frequently.
Cool.
So it's not going to be like, I think the point is that it's not a big burden on the node operator.
Right. It's super easy. Okay, cool. Cool. Right. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And they don't Yeah, they don't have to worry about what they just need to focus on is running the software, and keeping the the liquid delegators happy. That the liquid delegations, they don't have to actively like on a from like a management perspective, they're not like doing stuff on behalf of the liquid delegators, but liquid delegators come to them. And the P&O sits in between. They sit in between the K network and the and the liquid delegators. That's where the P&O sits. So we can go on to that now. So that's basically a restaker inside the Restaking Cloud. So they basically signal the P&Os that they want to be aligned with. Of course, there are rewards in exchange for doing that.
Why is it called
But
liquid delegations?
yes, it's along the same lines of thinking of like liquid voting. And
So
you
if
can
I,
move it easily. This is
yeah,
the
but
key point.
remember when I restake my ETH, so I delegate all my Ethereum validators, right? I can have like 1 or 100 validator balances at a given point of time in the K2 registry. Or maybe I've also put some LST tokens like ST, RE, DE, you name it, all the other kind of LST tokens also put as a restake. So at a given point of
The
time
different
that I have,
sources,
yeah, can
right?
I just like if I have 10,000 ETH in K2 restaked, I can just say that I'm only going to test this out with 100 ETH, but I want to test out 5 node operators, 2, like 20, 20, 20.
Yeah, you
Is that
have
possible?
yeah, well, yeah. So you have many different sources that can be used to restake, and you get a unified liquid delegation balance. So
Mm.
if you let's say you natively delegated to Ethereum validators, then you're going to get 48 liquid delegation balance, right? A unified balance that you can then you can distribute that out how you wish. So it could be all 48 on one P&O that you really want to back. And there are I think it's good to emphasize something that you mentioned about you can create really valued aligned networks. So a liquid delegator, let's say you guys are the two P&Os that I'm choosing between. I'm a liquid delegator, and Matt and Derek, you're a P&O. I'm trying to decide, okay, who do I liquidly delegate to? So I can decide what my preferences are, and perhaps I say, okay, well, Derek is based in Africa, so I want to, for the geographical decentralization of a network, I'm going to liquid delegate to Derek, right? Because I don't want another AWS node in Frankfurt configured, you know? So I can make that kind of informed decision.
This is a very important point that you're basically saying even if the decentralized redistributed network should have some sort of a Nakamoto coefficient, like very high. So this is the biggest problem now is in Ethereum, like most of the node running services, like located in Virginia or in somewhere in in Germany. But now you're saying that if the node operators are, if you have some sort of vision, so that I want to provide my delegations to the services that is providing Africa or Latam or in elsewhere, like geolocations, you can make that informed decision because the delegations are fungible, right? It's just like not fungible in the sense that and an aggregate is fungible, but just like each delegations can be like teeny tiny or like any arbitrary amount, right? You're not going in all in optim. You have this kind of optimal distribution, right? And you can just rebalance it from time to time if that's a service that you want to do it, and you have your voice as is registered through that action. It's
Yeah,
just
I
like
mean,
how you make it.
I do want to say something about the Frankfurt point. Like, you can't really blame people, right? Because at the end of the day, it's easy, right? At a click of a button, you can spin up a whole Ethereum node, right? And so Restaking Cloud is saying, okay, well, if you want to decentralize fast, there are node runners ready in all kinds of locations, all over the world. So you just basically liquidly delegate to those, right? So you you have that same level of convenience and speed, right? By this mechanism. So that's how we can decentralize. And if we make and give people easier tools to use, then they will go for the easier option, right? We can't say that people who like are only using Frankfurt or like some other kind of location in the United States that they're bad people, right? They, people have different goals. People have like only a certain amount of time in
Sometimes it
their
is
day.
required.
So yeah,
Like sometimes it is required for relays and things like you just really need to be closer to the trading centers if you want to do it, right? So if you want to have like, if you're running an intent based infrastructure that you want to have some of these kind of relays are very close to where most of the actions are happening. So you just want to have like, integrated builder or things like we're seeing all kind of infrastructure modularity here and how this transaction should be flow and where it need to go. And yeah, of course, the centralizing vector is don't let me speak up on that. I'm just going to slow down at that point.
But
that's a different subject for PONs. I'm not talking about that one here.
So with these liquid delegators, we'll get a reward for doing this, right?
Account abstractions, right? So if you want to have a bundler and if you want to serve certain kind of a jurisdiction, you just basically, if you want to have more and more granular policies. And we are not going to be live in Mars. We're going to be here. Everybody lives in some sort of jurisdiction. So you still want some degree of decentralization. So you can have this kind of trust, be very fluid, and can give this kind of services. And then your earnings will also reflect that. Your earnings, now you're making your bets or your values are aligned. And it's clearly an alignment stack in that sense. Like, you can, if you want to get this kind of a permissionless finance, permissionless distributed network to be available for everyone, you can pay it forward. And this is the way that you can do it. Allow those people who are ready to provide that infrastructure with your security. So more services can expand to those markets with your delegation. So you're not losing anything. You're just earning a piece of that, but they're readily available boots on the ground. We have seen, guys like that node has taken a lot of effort to get to someone in Kenya and to spin up an Ethereum validator. And this is the core of Ethereum in a community. We want to be inclusive from the day one. We want to help them. But ETH, on the contrary, ETH is a very high value asset. Yeah, how part.
I think the how part has been the difficult part all along, because I think we can all agree like client diversity is really important. We can all agree like geographical decentralization is really important. But how do you get there? That's the question.
Yeah, you need to have super programmable, very fluid layer of coordinations that can move around, and because things will change very fast and very, 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 very modular. Okay, I'm not going to stop you. Just go into other buckets.
No. The only thing that's helpful, and I think obviously there's a cut for the liquid delegators, right? So K networks, which we'll get into in a second, will reward for the it's these are node runners for hire, right? So there is of course like a cost involved with it, and they will pay the rewards, right? P&Os get the payouts and the slashing. That's actually one of the last things there. So you can see the 80-20 split over there. But let's go into the K networks, right? So essentially, like I say, they want P&Os to run their software. This is an additional service that they want, right? So as we said at the start, some applications will only require restaked ETH for their purposes, and some will require restaked ETH and P&Os backed by ETH, slashable ETH. So the K networks, they're pretty straightforward from an on-chain perspective. Design space is very open on an off-chain perspective. On-chain, we're just maintaining a registry of active P&Os inside of a K network, which means that if as a P&O, if you're not part of a K network, you're not going to get slashed for anything you didn't do, right? So, but when you opt in to a K network, there are certain like slashing rules that you'll be able to kind of be aware of ahead of time of opting in. And you need to run the software in compliance with their system. So any kind of P&O violations will allow K network to slash ETH earnings. So P&O is very incentivized to run a good system and a good operation. There are good node operators out there that have been mentioned that will be able to do it, no problem. So Of course, any good decentralized network has some level of fault tolerance, right? So there is always buffer, right? It's kind of like nodes go offline. That happens, right? But there are certain red lines that cannot be crossed. K networks have the ability also for whatever reason it may be, that it might be regulatory, it might be some other reasons that require some kind of like real world agreements. The K networks can gate the PNOs that are part of the network. So they can say, right, look, we're not going to be an open one where anyone can come in and run the software for us. They can simply say, I have a list of guys that I know. We will select them.
Wait a minute. So, with this kind of a pop-up cities like Zizalu and this kind of network state theory that we have, can I ensure, can I have an application that is actually protecting in a real world asset, like buildings, like lease and things like getting paid out, and you have someone to report that, the machine sitting there, reporting that how many, you want some IoT devices to Starlink or something like that, and you want to expand it, but you funded that operations and you just want to get the network to be monitored. It's possible because you basically run that machines and just if it goes down, the reporters will report it, or the lease agreements has to be done and someone just stamp it and they just make it a ZK certificate. What kind of things?
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't have to be. Yeah, absolutely. We can go well beyond kind of like the existing blockchain realm. Because we're kind of like as an industry sometimes, sort of like run a little bit of an echo chamber sometimes.
It's literally it's restaked operations. Like you're bringing like an additional trustless actors coming into it, and they can coordinate with the help of the smart contract logic. You have capital deployed, but you just want to have continuous monitoring on that one, continuous reporting on that one. That's how the business operates. And if you're not there, you just hire machines or something that you can give the reporting, and based on that one, you just slash the balance or something like that. Ooh, that's super cool.
Yeah. You're scaling infrastructure, you're scaling access to information and value. Yeah, that's a nice way to put it, actually. Really nice way.
I was just thinking, Vince, it sounds like, between what you were saying and what Matt was saying earlier, that what this PNO does is it really opens up optionality for people who need services run. And there really is just an incredible amount of optionality. Some need PNOs, some don't. The ones who do need PNOs, they can gatekeep it however they need to, if it's jurisdictionally, if they want to get a certain type of decentralization, or if they want people who specialize in certain services. It just kind of lets people coordinate however they think is best for their network, and then be able to operate and have them operate. I know that Restaking Cloud and K2 and this node cloud in particular will make sure that everything operates as intended once people have chosen those rails that they want to operate within.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a nice way to summarize it, for sure. Obviously, we have some kind of like tolerances built into this, and PNOs that consistently misbehave, they'll just get ejected. So it kind of like has like this self-healing mechanism. And we have some like really interesting scaling of like infrastructure, machines, humans, and it's really interesting. But you have to be an active K network, right? So that means taking out slashable ETH in order to be able to slash PNOs. So that's important to note. So this is a nice, it's a good diagram, sort of re-emphasizing the reward distribution. So P&Os will, as we said, they've got full agency to opt into the networks that they want to be part of. There is always a subset working for a network, and they have attached to them liquid delegators. So a given P&O will be identified by an ETH address. That ETH address will have a liquid delegation balance from you can either do a self liquid delegation, or it is from other users. And that the more the users that are there, the more slashable ETH is there in the event that the P&O is not performing well. So it is important as a liquid delegator that you keep an eye on You can passively keep an eye on things and make sure the P&O does what they said they promised to do. P&Os need to make sure that they run software well, and K networks are protected because anyone that's bad will just get simply ejected. So shall we talk about value flow here then? What is the overall value flow? We've mentioned the P&Os, we've briefly touched upon the reporters, and then we have the K networks, kind of everybody's responsibilities here. So K networks are going to be paying rewards for P&O services. Liquid delegators are getting a cut here. Anything that deviates from expected behavior from the P&O, they will result in ETH slashing that gets paid.
So in the value flow, you have this kind of a stakeholders, right? So the K networks who actually wants a preferred node operator service, and the preferred node operators at a given, as a called P&O is a preferred node operator. So there could be a ledger, a K network, as we said before, could be like 100 or 1 or 10 or 1,000, arbitrary number. And every P&O has a unique ledger of the delegations, right? So that's the mapping. So if you take the high level, the K networks are hiring a node runner, but the node runner is also protected with ETH delegations. So that's the protection actually gives the slashing capability. So that's the, if you look at this right and left of the P&L has this kind of protection, they share the rewards, but it gives you the ETH slashing that is giving a reassurance for the K network. Is that, like, I'm just trying to give a value flow correct, right? There are 4 circles or whatever you want to call, but then just like, what are those? The one is the revenue, one is the protection, but there are 2 key actors here, K network and the P&O, right? And the other 2 are value flows.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense actually. It's either, and it's all, it's either ETH or it's
K network is getting something in return. The protection that's come from that is an ETH, and the P&Os are going to provide services for the K networks. They may get the rewards from ERC20 or ETH, but it is also shared between 2 parties. But K network is a continuous monitoring and protection from the P&O. If the P&O is not up to the mark of the operations, that is also shared between 2 parties, right? Reporters and the K network. We can just go one by one, but I just want to make sure this bucket and this bucket is a value flow of that. The P&O and the K networks are the actor in the value flow, the stakeholder. These are the 2 actors at any given point of time interacting.
And the continuous monitoring is from the ZK reporters.
Yes.
Right. That's just keeping everything in check on behalf of the K network. And like you said, the value flow is either the ETH into the K network if there's a slashing of it, or the rewards into the P&O, and the P&O redelegations, they're just getting a cut of that. They're getting
the rewards is a smart contract, right? Can you explain a little bit about the K networks, how the K networks actually pay the fund splitter? Is that for each and every P&O at a K network level, or how does this actually going to get split? Can you give a little bit details about the technical stuff here?
So
not too much because it's going to be complicated.
But as we mentioned before, with a K network, K networks will have a ledger of active P&Os. So that's again at a smart contract level with it from the node cloud.
It's a registry is correct?
Yeah, fully automated for them. In most cases with open K networks, the P&Os are going to be opting in via MEV plus to the K network. So the contract will keep the mapping of P&Os. P&Os, like I said before, so the P&Os have the separation between the P&Os have the liquid delegation separation. So liquid delegators delegate to a P&O, but a liquid delegator never goes and delegates directly to a K network. They delegate to a P&O, and that P&O can work for n number of K networks. And
Oh, that's a unified balance across the board, all the K networks that happen. So it's like a collective security.
right. It's collected. Yeah, exactly. They're just running additional software. And if they are, if they misbehave, they'll get kicked from all of the K networks, right? So there's no issue with them running and doing more than one operation at a time. But yeah, that's a good
So it's
point,
really
actually.
opened the market, like unbounded opportunity for the P&O to opt in. But the more delegation they receive, the better they become in this kind of reputation ladder.
Yeah, that's true. Because each K network that P&O works for, liquid delegators are getting a cut of those rewards, right?
Oh, baby, I love it. The more you go up, like the more you get better. Yeah, that's how it is. True capitalism, man. Yeah.
Yeah, which is and that's not a bad thing. So
that's a very American way of doing it, man. No matter who you are, you can come up to the top.
Yeah, exactly. Argentina's going that way as well. So with the rewards now, so basically it's like, you think of like, you want to spin up a K network, you get a kit, right? The node cloud is giving you a toolkit, and in that toolkit, with like you're saying, with the active P&Os in your networks, that's already tracked for you. And because you have all that information plus all the liquid delegators, you can deploy your own fund splitter, and that will process the information. You just, from time to time, as a K network, will pay to the fund splitter, and that will take care of who's in your network, how many liquid delegators there are. You don't have to worry about that as a K network. You're just injecting the rewards that you agree, and you can coordinate all of that kind of thing. Snapshot votes, you can coordinate that how you want outside of the contracts, right? So there's not a lot of contract complexity here, but it makes coordination really easy.
Cool. Any questions, Derek, here?
No questions here.
Okay. Right. So there are two segments here.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So there's on your screen on your left side is a P&O, on the right side, on the right hand side is a K2. So this is two different, completely isolated environment working in tandem. But we have to take the P&O as a node cloud, right? How the K networks hire a P&O with the slashing coverage. But we're just giving the K2 as an abstract view of how the K2 actually works another way, right? K2 has its own operations.
So this is Restaking Cloud's first two protocols here.
Yes.
And how they flow and work in tandem. Okay.
Yeah, so you can have your own protocols in Restaking Cloud. That's the whole point. Like, K2 bring this kind of a unified restaking. Now the P&O is docking in the node service. If you want to build your own protocols, come and talk to us. I mean, once it is completely permissions with DAO or things like that, you can just actually start docking in, like a Starship. It's cloud.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're different offerings, right? And it's not like mandatory to take the P&Os, but if you need them, that marketplace is there for the node operators.
So can we go through that screen a little bit? Maybe 2 minutes. Just go back to the early slide.
This one, yep. Yeah.
Yeah, it has this kind of a hierarchy. Like in the K networks, the node cloud is connected to the node cloud, and there's a P&O registry at any given point. That's the master registry of all the P&Os registered in the node cloud, and there's a master registry for all the K networks in the node cloud. Right, that's actually taking care of it. Right, so that's the first degree of those things. And then you have all this kind of operations like liquid delegations, reward zoning, lead slashing that we explained in the last slide. And, any system in the cloud, 24/7 rage quit is mandatory. Anyone can exit anytime. Anyone can join anytime. Correct. So that's something. Even the K2, you have the SPP at the top, and then it has this kind of other things, RSTs and slashing logic, and the usage fee on the K2 level. So you'll see this kind of the master registry, and the termination or the fee management and things like that. Yeah, this is really nice. Cool. Thank you. Ooh.
So actually, this goes a bit more into like this gives like a bit of an overview of
Open
the
heart
reward
surgery.
distribution. Yeah, open heart surgery. Yeah, that's true. So you completely as a K network, the payment, the fund splitter will just take care of like however many node operators you have, how many redelegation shares they have. You have some inflows and you have some outflows, so you're not worried about that. The on the other side you have the slashing, which is tracking for a given P&O. You're tracking how many what is the aggregate slashing received by the P&O, and obviously if that exceeds 60% of the earnings, that node operator can get kicked. So it's important to run a good service. Important to run a good service. There's a financial incentive for doing so. That's pretty straightforward, really. So this goes into what you were saying, right, Matt, about building applications. There are these layers, and you can build your own applications on top of that. So you have P&Os with slashable coverage, and then the applications and middleware on top of that, right? So there is a nice composition of rules and middleware that you can inject on off chain that help you to manage the registries on chain.
So it says that everything stems from the Ethereum validators, and then you have this kind of this is just the value abstraction layers, right? How you're serving the users. The Ethereum validator is the base, and the P&O is derived from that Ethereum being an Ethereum validator. If you're not serving Ethereum, you're not allowed here. Period. So it's some sort of an exclusivity for Ethereum validators. Like in order to register for a P&O, you need to have an active run.
But why is
machine.
that? Why can't you have Bitcoin, right?
I mean,
from a security perspective.
Yeah. From a security perspective, if you want to lock in Bitcoin, then you need to lock in Bitcoin. We don't really have a registry for that now, but there's nothing stopping that you want to add a Bitcoin market.
Right.
Do you want to do it?
But it's like, outside of that, it's the second biggest. You just have to look at the dollar value, right? So that the amount of ETH protecting Ethereum, right? If it's good enough for Ethereum,
it's good enough for everyone. It's 4.2 trillion. It's a 4.3 trillion, like, on a yearly basis. But then you have this kind of all these operations. It literally opened the floodgates of like, you can just run as many things. I'd love to get some thoughts from the P&O hub that Derek, that you have. Like, if you register for the P&O, is that how do you want to like envision you're talking to many people that are doing it? Like, can you have like a DAO as a register as a P&O, and then you can have like, a sub registry of a P&O that you have this kind of vision? Maybe you would love to hear about that one too. This is your turn.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that again, what's pretty interesting about the P&O and how it can be broken up is that people can start to create these buckets. And essentially what it is people who want to work together. It's almost like the idea of a MEV smoothing pool, but for preferred node operators. And this can be broken down into, say somebody has a liquid staking network and they want all of their node operators to work under the same P&O slash logic that they want them to do. And by doing that, they can keep a little bit of control over the rewards. This can be watched over by the DAO, what applications they're actually willing to run. But this can get a lot more granular as well, where maybe there's just groups of 5 or 10 people who want to be able to get these additional rewards and do it together and kind of get this sort of smoothing effect of rewards. And it's something that we see, consistently across ETH staking, and it's something that we plan on adopting here, where people are already finding different ways to break it down between the smoothing pool and between like DVT, things like that. So thanks for bringing us here, Vince. I kind of want to take a step back when we're looking towards earnings, and if we're talking about ETH restaking, I think it's really strong to also talk about it in the lens of ETH staking and kind of draw a few comparisons, because this will make things a little bit easier for people to understand when we're kind of transitioning between restaking and staking. And the first thing that people get access to, and we've seen this pre-merge, was this passive and consistent yield. And this was, brought in through staking rewards from ETH staking. And now that we get into restaking, this is what is through native delegation. Just by signing up for native delegation, you're getting paid ETH just by people who need access to the network, but do not actually need any additional services ran. So you can get this consistent flow of ETH just by signing up. Now, where things start to get interesting and the yield can really start to compound and gets a lot more exponential is once we get into what is this active yield. And this is similar to what we've seen with MEV, where people are actively pursuing strategies. Some pay more than others, and they're able to continually get more and more. And that's the same kind of idea here, where preferred node operators can opt in and out of different strategies to get additional rewards. Now, these rewards in K2, they can be additional ETH if that's what's being offered by a service or by a network, or it could be, ERC20 token. It could also be a combination of the two, but this is more active yield. They have to be running additional services. It's more than just being online and being there, and more than just natively delegating. And similar to ETH staking, it's more than just ETH staking. This is something that's actively being run. Now, if we take this a step further and we take a look and say, some people are going to not want to have to worry about even staking the validator or natively delegating. Some people aren't going to want to have to worry about this active yield in particular, and they just want somebody else to do these operations for them. They don't want to have to make any decisions. They just want to sit back and collect rewards. And that actually opens up a lot more opportunities for the node operators. Similar to where it was with ETH staking, we see so many liquid stakers. We see so many people choosing to have different services or institutions run the validators for them.
So you're saying that, are you saying that you could have like some sort of a restaking, credits? Like, you go to an AWS or somewhere that you get the credits and you can redeem it for using the resources in the AWS. So you can use an EC2, you can use a Lambda, you can use that and this. Like if you have an SVP, you can actually make that as a credit and give it to incubation, whatever it is. And then what you get it now is like you can actually go and inject the params in that SVP. So SVP is like a stake borrow position, right? So if you go to K2 in the app, you come first, you get a better interest rate, right? So just like the utilization rates. But it also have a range bounding, it will never escalate more than a certain point, right? And let's say you have a 70% utilization, you will never get a 70% interest rate. That never happens. It's like very, very modular, very dynamic. It has an optimized utilization. It also have like a levers to change the how this kind of parameters are there. So there's always a range how much you will pay, but still in comparison, you come in early, you always get a better rate, right? And it's a fixed rate. It's not a floating rate. And just to give you some tips about the floating rate is like floating rate is extremely hard in the real estate, that you will see that the floating rate even take at a peak, and then you have this kind of, the rate changes. Even if you have really a lot of people leasing out to your apartments, you will not be able to make the repayments, right? The refinancing will be extremely hard. The fixed rate is the core or the cornerstone of any kind of a very sustainable business. The floating rate is like very, that's a very speculative market. So we just want to have this kind of very sustainable growth, the fixed rate, but they can just roll on, they can top up and things like that. So let's assume you open an SVP, you have $1 million, you have $1 million ETH worth an SVP. You can split that SVP, you can sprinkle that with multiple projects, and these projects can actually inject the params whatever they want to, and the reporters will do it. And then that's more of like a DeFi market for restaking credits.
I'm thinking of all the financial primitives you can build on top of that. I don't want to say anything now. Okay.
Yeah, cool.
Great. So that's where these management fees. Thanks for that, Matt. I think that was kind of a good color of how there can be different, throughout different amounts of payouts from the K2 pool to these node operators from on like this native delegation sort of side of thing. And
A real
you know,
accounting and a cost base always help you to get refinancing, anything that you put it. So just helping that accounting and visibility for things what you want to do, the P&L is always really good way. So if you are setting up a business and operations, you want to know how much you want to spend, right? That's gives you a lot of grip on repricing your the products and services for different jurisdictions, different users, different things. Pay as you go, pay as you grow. Very important.
yeah, and for these node operators that are receiving the payments, there's also these additional opportunities for them, even outside of receiving, delegations and collecting their management fees. They can actually run this reporter software, and it might seem a little bit like a double dip where they can run the software or they can run these SBPs and get paid to run these networks, but at the same time, they can also get paid since they have the hardware already. They can also run these lightweight clients and enforce any sort of slashing on the network. They could even enforce slashing upon themselves, but they could also enforce slashing on other people as well. But they can do both the same thing of running the validator and running the node, becoming a PNO, receiving delegations, and running this client. Which is interesting, because if we want to take this a step further, some middleware and some K networks might already have access to ETH validators. That might be a part of their business, where they could actually be the people who are running the setting up whatever this network is. They can be running validators for this network and being the reporters of this network, and they could be using K2 to help regulate all of this as well. So there's a lot of different ways that people can build up these yield tiers.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. It does 100% make sense, because most
What are the yield tiers? What are the yield tiers? I want to see the yield tiers.
Well, that's the next slide. Yeah. Yeah, so I can kind of jump into these yield tiers, right? So this, just to kind of preface this, in the same way that we were looking at anything is possible and people can build different opportunities within Restaking Cloud and Med Plus, both the internal team who's building and external parties. This is really just the beginning. This is kind of what it looks like if somebody wants to become a preferred node operator and completely optimize their node. These are the yield possibilities available to them out of the box with what we have now. And we kind of covered what this native delegation is. That's a consistent flow of ETH. People can come in and they register. It takes about 10 minutes, sign up with MEV Plus, and they're able to do this native delegation. Their ETH becomes available, and they can get this ETH inbound. Now, they can take that step up, and they can be approved as a preferred node operator. This starts off, this is something where we'll be looking at getting the first few in, but after that, this can become more of a DAO operation. If a preferred node operator meets certain specifications, or if a node operator meets certain specifications, they can come in as a preferred node operator. And again, these payouts, it depends on how these networks want to pay. So some will want to pay in ETH, some will be ERC20, some will be these RSTs, which we didn't touch much today, but that's another way to mint ETH-backed tokens out of these restaked positions, these stake borrower positions. Now, this node delegations, that kind of goes down to the same idea again, that anybody can, once you're a preferred node operator, people can delegate their ETH to you, and then you get to operate for them. This is all taken care of by the smart contracts, and you just start to collect 20% of all the rewards you're making off of other people's delegations. Now, going to kind of lump these last two together a little bit, because this reporting, this running of this software can be broken down into two different tiers, and the payouts look a little bit different for both. One is the K2 reporting. This is for the basic stake borrower positions. This is when there is no preferred node operator involved. People just come in and they're able to just borrow and write some services and do this higher level sort of restaking security, and that gets paid out in actually in ETH for them. And now what they can then do is do this preferred reporting, which enforces different logics on the preferred node operators. And these are two different things. It's two different softwares, but they only have to download the software one time for each one of these. And then they can enforce these different networks and receive payouts for that. And similar to what I was talking about earlier and alluding to, is this is really the beginning. As people start to get in and people start to build, and we start to continue to build, more and more opportunities will come up for these node operators to earn additional rewards, ETH, ERC20s, RSTs, a lot of different options.
Right. I mean, it's really fascinating to think from, yeah, liquid delegations for liquid yield. I love it. But just like, it's really fascinating how much you can go. This is a lot of, oh yeah, that's graph. So something like, how do you think like people joining a machine network, like this graph, I love it because it's just showing the Filecoin. So if you can zoom in that part, this is the time that people are joined the network. You can see that's in a quote unquote in a classic startup world is customer acquisition, like people joining, and then people just leave the system, right? But the infrastructure solutions they're very value aligned and they know what they're doing. And this crypto is very famous for bootstrapping very large networks of infrastructure. Like you have this kind of Filecoin has like a lot of EBI bytes. How much they have the storage? The next one. So this is like capacities being added on a daily, on a weekly basis. Yeah. That's can you go there? Like what's the number showing? The storage actually shows EBI bytes or PB bytes and things like. Oh, that's a TB byte. Yeah, that's a PB byte. Oh my God, that's huge, right? So that's a PB byte. That's like petabytes, whatever you want to call it in the storage, right? And you see that the capacity, this has been added on a weekly basis. That the capacity is it's there. It's getting like
quite sticky.
Yeah, and you have this kind of networks that are offering. So that a lot of people actually can provide services for you in a very resilient fashion. And if you can incentivize these resources could be utilized for multiple applications with e-security, that means you can, you could use storage, you can store storage from Filecoin, you can even use FVM, right? Filecoin virtual machines applications over there, or you can use any kind of other networks RPC endpoints like pockets, or like the new SVP protected RPC endpoints coming from the Ethereum node operators, or anything like notary attestations for the compliance, or any kind of
or data
availability
services.
Right, data availability. That's basically like much of the data availability functions is like reporter can actually provide a lot of DA kind of like concurrent independent actions is the ZK will do it. But the DA for the L1s, like, you can actually integrate with Celestia or in Ethereum danksharding or any kind of other DA layers that will actually help you to get the bridges and things like that, the oracles. And that it's like the centralized operations, like they can spin up their operations for decentralized for dispute resolution, pay to P2P. That's we already seeing, which is getting deployed. So it's massive. From an SPP perspective, it's already opening 1 million operations, and now it's a P&O is really opening up this kind of a boots on ground. That's what I say, right? And literally, like the pinging. You can have a good protocol, but also have like this kind of a satellite and just the devices that is pinging the satellites. And I've seen this, like you can actually talk to an ISS space with a radio signal. You can literally do that. You can ping the International Space Station, and they say, "Yeah, we got you." So it just really like that. If you make it accessible universally, and then now you're injecting crypto economics and for the continuity of operations, and in return, liquid delegations, liquid yield. I mean, there's always liquid, right? I mean, it's massive. I don't know where it goes. We're just opening up Pandora box here. Cap with infrastructure. Come on, man.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about especially this P&O part of Restaking Cloud. You know, the K2 part's so interesting, but then once we move into this idea of the P&O, really so many new opportunities open up, and it'll be really interesting to see what people want to build. We already are hearing so many different ideas of what can be done with it, and I think that this is really just the tip of that iceberg, right? This is just
Yeah.
the first wave, and in one, you know, even 6 months or a year's time, there can be a lot of new things that can be built out of this.
SBP applications like the payouts and the services, specific services, you will have another registry for specific kind of applications, I think, like that. And AI and ML training kind of sets, right? So we already pushing at those kind of gadgets too. So you get the SSL. You came with an online banking, now the checkouts and everywhere. Now that expand the business, and then it brought the eBay for the PayPal, but then now the Amazon. Then you have like all kind of distribution networks overlaps, and you go to brick and mortar stores, or you go to an online shopping in their own shopping, or you go to this kind of channel shopping through one of the marketplaces. It will only add more and more and more opportunities. You will get more and more services. It could be human services. It could be GPT oriented services, like you can get these translations and you can actually have that kind of to be restaked. You get all kind of models are coming in. You can have genomics, like all this kind of things. You can readily available that any kind of resources from anywhere from the world. That's a permissionless leverage to think beyond what is possible without any restrictions, to dream and to bootstrap and to grow regardless who you are, where you are, and just an access to internet. And that internet could also be decentralized as a mesh network.
Yeah, it gets so big, and I think this is a great time to say if anybody wants to get involved, the testnet is live. We've already had about 8,500 validators come in. It's a great time to come, join there, can start playing around with native delegation, can move into PNOs. And if people want to start building, I know a lot of you have reached out already. You can continue to reach out. We're here to bounce ideas around and share different things. And there's a lot of different ways that you can get involved with Restaking Cloud.
Yeah. Anyone who is getting a little bit delay of onboarding stuff, apologize, small team, a lot of inbound requests.
Yeah.
So we try to bring more people and just get boots on ground. So maybe we get a K2 for growing people in different parts of the world that will be speaking different languages. I expect if that kind of service can come, it's massive.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's a wrap. So thank you, guys. Let's get things going. All right.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Good one.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.